Wait, they just hit Expulsion? So is Branded best deck now? What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Coffee. Today we're going to be jumping back into the Branded Despia deck. I'm very excited to be showcasing this because this deck really went unhit on the ban list. The format has definitely changed, and as time goes on, the meta will evolve, so we might have to make some tweaks in the future. But right now, with the list I have in front of you, I think this is going to be one of the greatest contenders going forward. But before we hop into all that, as always, guys, please go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. That way you guys can sit down and tune in. Let's do this. Alright, as many of you know, I'm a big fan of the Branded Despia deck, and with the new ban list, the format definitely is going to be shaken up, but this deck is really at full power, and you can still gimmick Puppet Luck if you want to go that route. But right now, I think the most important thing is really just addressing what you expect to be the best, or at least the most popular decks right now. And of course, as the format develops, we'll change some of the tech cards and maybe how we approach the build. But for now, as we wait for the format to develop, I think the list I have for you today has a really great shot going forward. So hopping straight into the monsters, I am playing 2 copies of Albaz, 2 copies of Cards&CoffeeTCG, and only 1 copy of Guiding Quem. In my previous lists, you've always seen me play 3 Albaz, and you definitely could, it's just really personal preference. But now with Kashtira losing the Diablosis, we don't have to worry about 8 cards getting ripped off the top of our deck, so really as long as you always have 1 in your deck, then you should be fine. Blazing Cards&CoffeeTCG, on the other hand, could be argued to be played at 1, but personally I play this more as a Cards&CoffeeTCG deck now than I do a Branded Fusion deck. There are so many games that I can make a full board without even activating Branded Fusion, and a lot of the times it's just better to go that route because there are going to be some hands that Ash on Branded Fusion will just skip your turn. And so by getting access to this Cards&CoffeeTCG Quem engine early, it just makes it that much easier to play, playing through interruptions or even breaking boards. After that, we are of course going to be playing the 1 Tragedy. This is really amazing because it also searches the Quem, just really tying the 2 Albaz and Despia engines together that much better. Then of course we have the Ad Lib. I definitely think this should still be played. This card is so good, especially in conjunction with Guiding Quem. And of course we have the 3 Alibur. Nothing really to change, your best normal summon. The fact that Quem is a normal summon is a little unfortunate at times, but we did cut Albaz to 2, kind of mitigating that problem. Now I find more times than not I actually search Branded Opening rather than Branded Fusion. Like I said, there are going to be hands where Ash on Branded Fusion will skip your turn, so rather than just play into it, might as well grab Opening and set up Quem and dump Albaz or whatever your hand needs at that moment. There's so many different lines you can do to build a board without actually activating Branded Fusion, and it's always really funny when your opponent holds Ash for Branded Fusion when you decide just never to activate it. And after that, we just have some more of the Albaz support. We have the Albion, we have the Mercurier, and of course we have the Spriggan's Kit. I keep taking Kit in and out of the deck. I do have the Spriggan's Fusion, so it does come up for that. Before, when Cash was ripping 8 cards out of your deck, it was just nice to have another Beast or Beast Warrior or Wing Beast in your deck. That way you can make Rinbrum into a Rise Heart. But since that's not going to be a thing anymore, we'll see if that needs to be adjusted. So whether or not it stays in the main, I guess time will tell, but it's a great starter, it's a great extender, and of course great for the grind game, not only getting you cards you need, but recycling them as well. So that's it really for the Albaz Branded Despia stuff. After that, we are still playing Bystials. I am playing 1 Lubellion as well as 1 Sornir. I actually like the Bystials in a lot of the future matchups coming up. There are some that it's really bad, so we'll see if I change these ratios, but I could definitely see there being a world where you go back to 2-2 and then of course 2 Mercurier as well, so we'll see if that changes. And then after that, I'm still opting to play the 1 Dark Magician. I know some players have cut it recently, but now more than ever, I think this is the most relevant secondary engine to have in your deck. Dragoons is so good at going second, breaking boards, but also we have ways to fuse into it on our opponent's turn as well, which is great for the mirror, being able to negate something like Branded Fusion. But also there's just going to be a lot of decks that are going to struggle with Dragoons. Sky Striker struggles with it if they're not playing Hamp, and of course something like Labyrinth, which I expect to be very popular, also has a hard time with it. Really, there's not much to explain. Dragoons is so good, and whether it's in a good matchup or just an average matchup, the card is insane, and for that reason I definitely think think you guys should still be playing it going forward. Now for the last monster in the deck, I'm actually only opting to run 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I don't know how I feel about hand traps right now. They're a little awkward. I don't even know if Droll and Lockbird in the main is correct. There's definitely a lot of decks that can get hit by it, but without super heavy in the format, at least at a tier 1 caliber, I don't know if main decking it's going to be correct because there's so many decks it's bad against as well. But like I said, we'll see how the meta develops over time. But right now, Ash is just so good, not only in the mirror, but also against Labyrinth, which I expect to be really good. Plus, it's just generically good against everything. Who doesn't love Ash? Hopping into the spells, we are of course going to be playing 3 copies of Fusion Deployment, being a teleport for Albaz or primarily Cartesia. Plus, there is another interaction with this card, which we will talk about later, but this card is so insane in the deck. And then after that, of course, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Branded Opening. This card is so good now because of Guiding Quem. It's a starter, it's an extender, it gets both engines online now, plus being a quick play and using it in the draw phase or in the end phase after you added it off of Albion really adds a lot of layers to the technical play that this deck has. And then of course after that, we're playing 3 Branded Fusion. This card's the god card, there's no reason to explain it. If it resolves, you should win. And then after that, we just have some more standard stuff. We got the Loss, we got the Red, Foolish Burial, and Gold Sark. Really not much to explain here. You could entertain a second red or maybe even white, but we'll see how the format goes to see if it's worth playing them or not. But then moving on to what I call the going second cards of this deck, because we are opting to just play more of a board breaker deck. First of which is going to be 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This card is so insane. The fact that I expect a high representation of Branded really makes it to where this card is even better coming into this format. But not only that, we do have various other targets that we can make with this as well. But the fact that this card also just helps you out the most problematic monsters you might run into obviously makes this one of the best cards for this deck. Now, one card that I've been playing pre-Banlist that I actually think is going to be really good post-Banlist as well is going to be 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Very similar to Sky Striker, this gets you your engine as well as any board breakers you might main or side. Obviously, it gets you Branded Fusion, it gets you Fusion Deployment, heck, it can even get you like Foolish and Gold Sark, so that's pretty neat. I'm also still opting to main deck the 1 Herald of the Abyss. Yes, I know Pearly isn't going to be as represented, but there are going to be problematic monsters that you're going to want to out. So whether you're trying to out Noir or Baguska or just trade 1 for 1 with a Baron or something, I still think this card's very good and has a lot of room in this meta. But Thrust is only as good as the trap card you can set going first, and I love Fusion Duplication. I had been experimenting with this towards the end of last format, and then I saw some players actually wind up topping their nationals with it, so it's very cool to see that other players like this card as well. In case you don't know what this card does, it targets a Fusion or Polymerization normal or quick play spell in either player's graveyard and copies its effect. So I guess simply put, if you get ashed on Branded Fusion, then the main application is just to Thrust, set this, and then basically Branded Fusion on their turn, which is crazy. But not only that, this card also copies Super Polymerization, which is really insane, and also Fusion Deployment because it's a normal card that says Fusion. So pretty dang crazy being able to bring out an Albaz for free off of Trap card. And then of course for the last card in the deck we have the 1 Retribution. No Called By in the main. I definitely want to fit it. Maybe I cut the kit, but we'll see how the format develops. But as of right now, with what I expect to see, I think this build has a really good matchup into so many different things. So that's it for the main deck, but before we hop into the extra deck, if you guys want to help support this channel, please make sure you subscribe, comment, like the video. It helps the channel so much. Plus you could also click the link down below for Next Level Anime. They're the guys that make the gear I wear now and what I wear at events. They have a wide variety of anime gear, be it hats, hoodies, shirts, you name it. They're already super affordable, but you can also save an additional 10% by using my code Cards&CoffeeTCG. And not only does it help keep money in your pocket, but a portion of that does go back to the channel, helping me make videos for you. But that being said, moving on to the extra deck, of course, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Mirror Jade, the best card in your extra deck. Then after that, of course, we have 2 Albion. I really wish we could play the 3rd. Then for the last of the Albaz stuff, we have the 1 Lubellion, the 1 Sprint, and the 1 Rinbrum. I've said it a few times already, but now that Mindhacker's gone, there's no world you really need that second Lubellion, so it's very nice to be able to get away with 1, even though I was playing 1 prior anyway. All these cards come up, and I don't see myself cutting any of them. Even if you were to cut the kit, I would still play the Sprint, just for the fact that you summon Albaz on your opponent's turn all the time. Your opponent isn't always going to have a light or a dark or an extra deck monster on the field, so you want to be able to use something generically like a special summoned monster to at least be able to fusion as an interruption. Then after that, of course, we have the Granganol, we have the Dragoon, we have the Chimera, and the Dracostapelia. Again, all these are pretty standard in my Nadir Servant build. I actually opt to play 2 of this, but we could save that for another video. After that, we have some super poly targets. Of course, Mud Dragon's the best and the one that comes up the most. And then after that, we still play the 1 Garura. This one actually comes up the least, but it is technically something you can dump with Granganol. But really, the reason I still opt to play this is because I expect Labyrinth to be very highly represented out the gate. Obviously, the best way to beat that deck is to keep their boss monsters off the field. So since I expect that deck to be highly represented, by playing the Garura, you just make that Super Poly so much stronger in that matchup. And then, of course, after that, it's just the Despia stuff. We got the 1 Cordis and the 1 Lulu. But at the end of the day, I definitely think this extra deck is looking pretty solid. There is some flexibility, especially if you do opt to not play Super Poly. Because, like I said, I do tend to play this deck more as like a Cartesia deck. So by putting Granganol to 2 and maybe even Lulu as well, you definitely add another layer to this deck that really pushes it to the next level. So that's going to wrap things up for my branded Despia deck. I really think this build is great for the start of this upcoming format, just having an answer for a little bit of everything. The deck is really catered towards the mirror, but also has blowouts against so many other things as well. And of course, as the format shapes up, the one beautiful thing about branded is we can always innovate. Once again, guys, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. And here's hoping to see you guys on the next one. Peace.